Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about using pictures and paper and bezels. I make a lot of my pendants and earrings this way because it's very versatile. If you can download a photo, you can size it down in PowerPoint and use it in jewelry pretty easily. You can use almost any kind of paper you want, but it has to be sealed with Mod Podge. I'm sure there's other sealers out there, but I just go with this one. It's going to keep the resin from getting under the paper and just saturating into it and leaving splotches. So sealing it is essential if you want to work with paper. These pieces were made with sheet music that I just picked up at a thrift store. These guys were images taken from the internet that I got sized down in PowerPoint and printed them out. And here's some other examples. There's some kissing skeletons. Einstein, of course. Breaking Bad, Frank Sinatra, Lumpy Space Princess. Other stuff you're going to need for working with paper is going to be a brush, so you can actually spread the Mod Podge all in there and seal it, and an X-Acto knife so we can cut out these exact shapes. A lot of the bezels will come with templates on the card. I'll show you that in a while. And you can just cut that out and use that. If it doesn't come with one, I make one using a stamp pad and a bezel, and I'll show you how to do that as well. We're going to go ahead and start at the beginning by picking out and sizing some images. And when we cover the basics of that, we'll jump into cutting the picture and sealing it into the bezel and pouring the resin. I'd like to say right off the bat that the type of printer that you use matters a lot. It can't be printed with an inkjet printer. It will smudge and it'll smear and it'll make a huge mess if you try to use the sealer on it. It has to be laser printed. I'll talk more about that a bit later, and we can go ahead and get started on sizing our images now. Alright, I'm all set up here. I'm going to be using Kingsoft Presentation for this, which is pretty much a generic version of PowerPoint. The last computer I owned had PowerPoint and it died on me, and before that I had a desktop and it had it, and it also kicked the bucket on me. So this time I just got Kingsoft, and it's just as good. The files can be opened in PowerPoint because they're compatible, and it's free, so you can't really beat that. Okay, if you can use PowerPoint, you can use this Kingsoft. They're very interchangeable. The files are interchangeable. You can open this in PowerPoint. So it's versatile. You have options. Okay, so I want to go to this first slide. Get rid of all of this. So we're going to go ahead and pull up a picture from the internet so I can show you that you really can use almost anything you want. All right. I am a big fan of monarchs, so we're going to go ahead and just grab this one to use as an example. So now I'm in PowerPoint, Kingsoft, what have you, and I'm going to insert that photo. There it is. Okay. That's too big for our bezels, so we're going to go ahead and size it down now. So in this program, it's simple. You double click on it, it pulls up the size, and this gives you its dimensions. You can change it from centimeters to inches or whatever, but I'm going to stick with centimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and make this 2 centimeters high. And let's see what that makes the width. The width is 2.59. So I'm going to go ahead, probably size that down a little bit more. We'll go 1.5 just to see how that looks. So I'm going to push that over to the side here. I'm going to do a sample printout to see if it fits well in the bezel that I would like to use it for, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. So we'll go ahead and grab one more picture. I'm just going to take a picture that I already have saved on my computer, because why not? Same concept. I want to size it down. You can measure your bezel and get exact measurements, or you can just kind of wing it like this and print it out and see how it's looking and go from there. I do both of those often. So we're going to say 2.5 centimeters. Okay, and that's still kind of big. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and do a sample printout just to see if I'm happy with their sizes, and if I am, then I'll work with those, and if not, I'll come back and size it down a little bit more. Okay, here's our printed out slide with the scaled down images, and now we can go ahead and use some cutouts to see if we're happy with the sizing of the pictures. Some bezels will come with templates on them, like this one, and you can just cut it out with an X-Acto knife and use it as a window to position over your photos. If they don't come with a template, I will make one out of cardstock. I'll just take a piece of cardstock and I'll take the bezel and I'll just squish it into some ink and stamp it, and I'll show you that right now. So just a little stamp pad. I got it from Walmart for like $1 or something. It's a little dried out, but we'll see if it works. You just want to stamp it, get a good coat, and then one clean stamp, just like that. And now we have the outline, so we can go ahead and cut that out, and we would have a perfect window that would fit right into this. Okay, so now we'll see how these images we printed out actually do fit into the bezels. I could tell right off the bat that the Monarch is too small. This is the smallest bezel that I use. It's an earring bezel, and it doesn't fit in there quite right. So I would have to go up in the size on that, absolutely. This one looks a little bit more reasonable, and I think a few bezels of mine would work. Here's a rectangle, and it fits in there quite nicely. Here's an oval, and it also fits in there just right. Here's a square. The square will not work because you see how there's that white going on. You would have to size that up in order for that to work. Earlier in the video, I talked about how I'd like to cover printing a little bit more, so we're going to come back to that. We have a laser printer, and while it would work for what I want to use it for, it's still not as good as stuff that I get printed out at Staples. The quality from the stuff at Staples is way, way better. It's glossier, it's sharper, it really trumps this home printed one, even though it was a laser print. It's not an inkjet print. Don't ever use inkjet print. It won't work. It'll smudge everywhere. Make it a laser print, and if you want it to look really, really nice and professional, I suggest going to Staples. It's easy stuff. I take the PowerPoint, the slide that we just did on the computer, and I save it to a flash drive and take it to them. Tell them I want a few color copies. They're like 50 cents each. It's not pricey at all. They print them out for you. Those are the best ones to go with. It'll give you a very finished product. You can do other stuff, but I would suggest trying Staples. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to cut out your image and seal it into the bezel and get it ready for the resin. I'm not going to use these that we did on the computer because, like I said, I'm not psyched about the quality. It's whatever. So I'm going to use these ones I printed out from Staples that are much better for this type of thing. I'm going to go ahead and go with one of Da Vinci's anatomy drawings. That looks good. So I'm going to decide what bezel shape I would like it to be in. I'm thinking I'm going to go rectangle, but I'm not quite sure. No, we'll go square. We're going to go square with that one. So you're going to take your X-Acto knife. They're very, very sharp. Be careful. I haven't cut myself badly, but I've cut like stuff around me, like my comforter and like stupid stuff. So be mindful of that. Always have something up behind it. I use this tile. I got it at Lowe's for like $1 or something like that. Just make sure the back is covered because it will cut through anything that's underneath it. So, one thing I've learned is using tape to put the bezel in the right place saves a lot of time, and it makes it just easier in general. I used to like push down on it all crazy while trying to cut, and I was just straining myself for no reason. So now I just position it to where it needs to be, and I tape it down. And I don't have to worry about it sliding around everywhere and getting all crazy on me. It's just, it's where it should be, and that's that. So now I'm going to cut it. Take your time with this stuff. I'm kind of speeding through it so you could just get the gist. I've also done this for a while. So we have our cutout. And we're going to get the square bezel. Oh, that already has something in it. I'll cover that when we talk about repairs, but while I have this one, I want to show you the splotchiness I'm talking about. If you don't seal it right, you see that? It'll be all over the place, and it looks like I sealed the rest of it okay, but I screwed up right there, so it ruins it, and that's no good. This can be repaired. I'll do a whole other video about that and show you how to fix stuff that you've damaged, but for now, I'm going to grab a bezel that doesn't have something in it. Okay, this one has nothing in it. That's what we're going for. So I'm going to take my Mod Podge, and I'm going to take my brush. I use a flat one. I can imagine that you can use other ones, but I get the best results with these flat ones, so that's what we're going to go with. I'm going to dip it in. You don't have to get all crazy with it. You don't have to use a lot, because if you do use a lot, it'll bubble up underneath it, and it doesn't ruin it, but I just don't personally care for it. I don't think anyone else even notices, but I do. Okay, so we're going to coat up in there. We're going to take our image and we're going to fit it in there and really push it down there. You want it to make full contact with that back part. When I do this, I'll use about 3 or 4 layers, because if I mess around and I don't do it enough, then it turns into this. You know, it's spotted. It's just take your time, do it right, don't play around, coat the whole thing, and avoid a headache later. Okay, well, you get the gist of that. I'll finish it here in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and move on to showing you how to properly cut one of these guys after I rinse this. Don't let that hang around on there too long. It will harden up and it will stiffen up and it'll ruin your brush. So I'm going to rinse this really quick. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cut one of these. We'll cut the one that I made out of the cardstock. So this one's going to be kind of messy because I am on camera and filming at the same time and I can't really put my full attention into it, but here goes. So you want to take your time, really get around it. So we have our window and let's see how well it actually fits into this. We're just going to take an image, tape it down. Like I said, taping it down really does make a difference. I've noticed that turning the paper the way I'm turning it makes it a lot easier. So give that a shot. All right. Now we have our piece. Let's see how well it fits into there. All right. So we got a pretty snug fit. Good deal. I like how that looks. I might actually make that into something. One thing you're going to come across, and I've ruined some stuff this way, is it gets kind of stuck in there when it's such a snug fit. So I've tried to pick it out with the X-Acto knife. That is not the way to go about it at all. I've finally learned that. I use tape again. Masking tape really does work wonders for this type of stuff. And just pull it right out and it won't damage the surface of it. Just don't use any like heavier duty tape. Don't use duct tape. Just use some nice masking tape and you'll be able to pull that piece out without damaging the edges. So I'm going to go ahead and finish doing what I need to do here, and I'll get it all set up and ready for the resin pour, and I'll walk you through all that because there are some specific ways to go about this so you don't have a lot of bubbles in your resin. It'll look really cloudy looking. It's not the end of the world, but you can see the teeny tiny little bubbles in there if you look at it close up, and I personally don't care for that at all. So I'm going to show you how to avoid that. Okay, I'm all set up and I'm ready to pour the resin. Before we do that, I'd like to explain a little bit about why I have them in this box and why they're positioned on a tape and all of that. I put everything in a box when I do this because I like to cover it right after, and I just take a piece of glass or what have you and position it over it and just leave it until it's cured because I don't want any dust or anything that flies around in the air to get into the resin on top of the piece because you will see it. So these are my precautions. I use a tape, but you can really use anything, and the reason I do that is because it doesn't lay flat. It has that little this going on, so I just put it right on the edge and that's hanging over, and now I have a flat surface to work on. I got all of this stuff at a thrift store. The tape was like 25 cents. The box was a board game, and I just got rid of what was inside and have used both halves of the box. The piece of glass was a really cheap picture frame that I also got from a thrift store. I just got rid of the frame and used that glass, and it works really great. So you can use whatever is around and available to you. This is just what I personally do. I went ahead and got my resin all mixed up and ready to go. If you're new to all of this and you don't really know the ins and outs of that, I have another tutorial called Resin Basics for Beginners, and it shows you the proper way to measure and mix and use your resin. So go ahead and check that one out if you have any questions about what to do. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start to pour my resin into my bezel. I will not pour a whole bunch at once. I'll just do a little bit at a time and let it really spread out and cover the surface. And I'll take a lighter to it. This is how you're going to get rid of your bubbles, is taking a lighter to it or some kind of heat source. You can breathe on it as well. And it's a lot easier to get all of them when you're doing thinner layers like that because they will just rise to the surface. If you pour a whole bunch at one time, some of them can kind of get stuck like down underneath the surface and it will lead to a cloudy piece. So I'm going to add a little bit more. Spread that all around. Take my heat to it. All right. Try not to over pour when you do this. If you over pour, sometimes it'll dome and it will be okay, but if you over pour drastically, it will start to spill over the sides and it will get really messy. That's happened to me more than a few times, so I try to be really careful with it. If you want a more domed, higher up look, you can do 2 different layers. After this layer cures, you can come back and you can spread another layer on top of it and let that cure as well. You can build up like that, and that's the better way to go if you really want to have a very domed appearance. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and leave that overnight. I'm going to cover up my box with my glass piece so we don't get any debris on it, so we have a nice glossy uniform look when it's finished. So we covered how to size images and how to work with paper and how to properly pour so you don't have a lot of bubbles in your resin. If you have any questions or if you have any comments or you would like me to get into detail about something more, please go ahead and leave me a comment in the appropriate area. Thank you so much for watching and you have a great day.